Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode will guide you through the issues of Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel in 1983. Issue 165. The X-Men are about to get hurled into deep space. Binary tore a hole through the hull of the ship, and the vacuum of space is pulling everyone off their feet and sucking them towards the breach. They try and grab everything they can get a hold on to not get ejected out of the spaceship. Cyclops tells Colossus to armor up and try and close as much of the gap as he can in his larger form. He also tells Nightcrawler to take Lilandra to the bridge so they can activate the damage control systems. Lilandra notices that teleporting along has not become any easier, on him and her both. Kurt is not his normal self, actually none of them are, but he's having a hard time keeping his spirits up. Back in the hangar bay, Cyclops tells Wolverine to use his claws and cut it into the deck. To cut off a piece of steel big enough to plug the hole in the wall of the ship. Due to Lilandra trying to provide more air and pressure in the bay, the wind in that area intensifies and Wolverine loses his grip, straight towards Colossus. Wolverine and Colossus are both worried about how the impact will hurt the other. Colossus with his organic metal skin and Wolverine with his skeleton being enhanced with the strongest metal on Earth. Wolverine ends up in one of Colossus' arms and is the one being hurt the most. Cyclops uses his optic force blast to tear loose the piece of metal Wolverine started to cut loose and tells Colossus to move himself out of the way. The vacuum sucks a piece of metal towards the hole and it closes the gap, taking away the decompression and wind resulting from the air pressure difference. The ship's artificial gravity restores itself, and because of this, Colossus and Wolverine fall back on the ground. Kitty seems awfully worried for Colossus, but Wolverine says they're both fine, regardless of them all being as good as that because of everything that's going on. Back on Earth, Illyana Rasputin and Moira McTaggart are accompanied by Stevie Hunter. They're sunbathing and trying to enjoy some downtime, yet still very aware of everything that's going on with the X-Men. Stevie asks what's going on with Xavier and how he's doing. Moira responds that there's a huge contrast between the man she met and the man he is nowadays. She feels as if he never really recovered mentally from the loss of his legs. Stevie can relate to that, having a serious knee injury which keeps her from performing on a professional level. Moira adds that in Charles' case, his grief goes a lot deeper now, with the X-Men being lost in space and quite possibly dead, and him not being able to be there for them, to lead them and to guide them. He feels like he's not only lost one of his pupils like he did Jean Grey, but a whole team. Moira asks Stevie to keep an eye on Illyana, while she goes to check up on Charles. As Stevie stands up, her knee injury plays up and she falls back into her chair. She tells Moira she's alright apart from the hurt, but it's nothing compared to losing one's soul. Moira enters Charles' room to tell him that she received a letter from Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four concerning a young girl named Sean Koima, a young mutant codenamed Karma, who could very well use Charles' guidance and experience in teaching young mutants to control their powers. Charles immediately shuts it down by saying simply, no. Moira doesn't start a discussion, nor an argument, and accepts Charles' reaction. Charles says that he's surprised by this. Moira responds by saying she's tried more than enough in the past weeks to budge an immovable object by screaming and fighting with Charles, and she's done with breaking her heart like that. It's his life and he can live it as he pleases, regardless of what she would like him to do. Fortunately, she says, there are other options. Charles asks if she means herself by that. She says maybe. They've been associates in mutant research since long before he started the X-Men, and she's convinced she could do a pretty solid job. But she says she was actually thinking along the lines of Magneto, or even Emma Frost, the White Queen of the Hellfire Club, and the headmistress of the Massachusetts Academy. Charles asks Moira if she's insane. She'd be handing over the child to villains, evil mutants, if she did that. Moira pours it on even more by saying that way the child will actually have an opportunity to learn and cope with her abilities, and won't be condemned before she's even begun. Xavier asks Moira if those are really the only two options, and that's just not being fair. He just can't take in another child into his place and see her life destroyed, like he did with his X-Men, whom he loved like they were his own children. He says how she has no idea what it's like to lose them. In his self-pity, Xavier clearly forgot how Moira lost her own son, the mutant codenamed Proteus, and she says that if she only had swallowed her pride back then and asked Charles for help, it might not have been necessary for the X-Men to kill her murderous son. Things might have turned out differently. She tells Charles to not sentence Karma to a similar fate. She leaves him in his room by saying that Proteus was her son alright, but he could have been theirs, with them having been lovers in the past. Xavier watches the sunset as he's overcome by emotions and memories. He also thinks of his oath as a teacher and a physician, and about a girl who could clearly use his help in getting a grip on her powers. Eventually he makes a decision to grab the letter and the telephone. We then catch up with what's going on with Storm in the Shuttle. She's flying aimlessly through the same nebula that currently enshrouds Lilandra's Imperial yacht. She left before Wolverine told the rest of the X-Men what happened to them all with the BROOD egg implants, but she figured out what's going on inside herself. She senses a child growing in her body, a BROOD child. She senses the child consuming her from the inside out, piece by piece, corrupting everything it touches, slowly but surely reshaping her and taking her place. With her devotion to life and nature, she's standing at a crossroads. Submit to what's going on in her body, losing herself in the process, or kill the BROOD and not even be certain that they will save her in the end. She prays to her goddess to help her, being lost, alone and so far from home. At that moment, the metamorphosis into a fully BROOD creature starts. First her hands and then the rest of her body. As she falls on the ground, with the change nearly completed, the shuttle emerges from the nebula. She enters a part of space where there's nothing but stars, filling the whole of the sky with brilliant blinding light. Being in the galactic core of a million suns, it allows her to draw spiritual and material sustenance thanks to her elemental powers, reversing the transformation, for now. She can feel the BROOD embryo still growing inside of her with each passing second. She realizes that if she wants to act, it must be now. Where she was at a crossroads before, she now realizes a third option. She wishes that she could see her friends once more to bid them farewell, as she uses her elemental powers and summons the power of the entire core. This influx of power, not so much different from what she does on Earth when tapping into the powers of nature, causes her to shine as if a new star is born. This process is fairly easy, yet the energies she's able to manipulate are magnified to an unimaginable degree than she's ever experienced before. She hopes for this to be the solution for the dilemma which she was facing. The embryo does not survive the ordeal, nor does she. In the meantime, aboard Borderlands Vessel, Cyclops, Lilandra and Wolverine discuss where they should go next, once they finish repair work on the ship. Logan suggests that they should go back to Sleaze World and finish what they started. Scott says that that would be like suicide, with just 6 people and an armed yacht against the whole of the BROOD race. Logan asks what the difference is, since they're all living on borrowed time with the BROOD embryos living inside of them. They can sit around and wait for them to be taken over, or go back and make the BROOD pay for what they've done. Lilandra says that as a magistrix of the Shi'ar Empire, she will show the BROOD no mercy. Wherever she finds them, she will claim their lives. Logan says that that's fine with him, and Scott finally agrees. Logan meets up with Kurt and asks him what he's doing. Being Catholic, he's saying his prayers and Logan is surprised at this. He did not expect Kurt to be this religious. Kurt asks if it's because of his features and tells Logan he should try it one time. How he might like it, just like Kurt draws comfort from his beliefs and prayers. Logan says he has, back in the army, and how it was a big mistake. Logan says he only believes in tangible things, reality, the rest is imagination. They joke around a bit about who's more alone between the two of them and decide to see if the ship has any kind of beer on board. We then see Kitty lying in her bed. While she's been in space, she's grown older and the birthday has passed, without her even knowing it. With everything that's been going on, she wonders if she'll ever go back to her hometown in Illinois. She's experienced a lot in the past weeks and she tries to look as brave as possible when the others are around. But here, being by herself, she was able to let go and started crying, and she wouldn't stop crying until she fell asleep. She dreams about a funeral service where her parents and the X-Men are present. When it's her turn to pay her respects, she approaches the coffin and sees herself lying inside. The corpse opens its eyes and smells, changing itself into a brood, grabbing Kitty and pulling her into a coffin, embracing her, dissolving all her flesh. Reality starts to blur, and where there were two beings, there now remains one, a young brood queen. She screams as she wakes up, and Pyotr is there to comfort her. He asks her if she had a bad dream and tells her everyone has been having them. She responds to him by saying that the reality they wake up to is just as bad as the nightmares they're having. He then asks Kitty if she wants to talk about it, and she pushes him away. He tells her that it's okay to be afraid, and she says she isn't. He notices her trying to act tough and reacts by saying, "Of course you aren't. My error." She then tells him that she doesn't want to die. Pyotr asks her with a smile on his face, "Who does?" Kitty doesn't like him joking about it one bit. He tells her it's either laugh or cry, and he doesn't want to give the brood the honor of his tears. He then tries to help Kitty rationalize the correlation between life and death, and Kitty just can't handle the thought of dying at a young age. If it had been in battle, then okay, but for it to end like this, to have an alien slowly growing inside of her like a cancer, knowing that she could change into a sleazoid at any given moment, that's more than she can bear. She breaks down into tears again, realizing that they don't even know if they will be aware of things once the transformation is done, witnessing all the horrible things they will do as a brood. Pyotr stays around to comfort Kitty until she gathers her bearings. She says she really needed this and wishes she was older. Pyotr says he does too, and Kitty asks if he's just saying that to cheer her up. He tells her that he knows precisely what she meant and that he's never been more serious. They share a kiss, and Pyotr sadly says that she's not older. She then asks him what society's stupid rules matter, when you're doomed to begin with. He tells her this is not the proper time and place, and she says that they might never get another chance. Pyotr responds by saying they don't know that and that the universe is full of surprises. At that moment, Kitty sees an appearance that makes her jump, and Colossus automatically changes into his armored form. It's Storm, with the appearance of a vampire, her eyes and her teeth. Colossus asks if it's really her or a ghost. Next we see Nightcrawler and Wolverine. They're drinking whatever Kurt made them, using an alien food synthesizer, and it's not the tastiest. Storm appears behind Wolverine and disappears almost immediately. They wonder if they're starting to see things because of the drink Kurt made. She then appears again, but as a little child. Kurt asks if they can help the child. She keeps saying how things aren't right and keeps disappearing. Kurt figures they should tell the others about what they saw. They arrive at the bridge where Kitty, Colossus, Cyclops and Lilandra have gathered, and Lilandra says she made contact with a very large and very close object, but the nebula scrambles the sensors. Cyclops asks if they can get out of the nebula, and Lilandra responds with saying that they could ram into the thing that's flying close by. They need more data before they can act. Kitty sees another apparition of Storm, yet again with different looks. Wolverine tries to approach her. He senses that it's not just a holographic projection of Storm. He sees Storm is changing again, this time looking older. At that time, Lilandra says she has visual contact with the object, and it appears to be one of the Brood's living spaceships. They're being swallowed whole. Cyclops tells them to power the engines, and for the rest to activate the ship's combat systems. They're going to try to punch their way out of there. Lilandra reacts by saying that it's all too late. But the creature broadcasts a power field that dampens the ship's cores, as well as rendering the ship's weapons inoperative. Storm says that that's her doing, for her protection as much as theirs. She tells everyone that she could not risk any injury to the Akanti. She seems to have gained the control of her projection and looks like the Storm we're familiar with. She asks her beloved friends to forgive her clumsy attempts in trying to contact them. She tells her friends that there's no cause for alarm. Kitty is happy to see Storm again, and Scott wants to hear an explanation. He wants to know what happened to her. She tells him that a lot has happened, and not all of it was pleasant. She's no longer the Storm that they all knew. Scott then asks how she can be so sure that the Akanti won't hurt them. Storm then tells them all she knows the Star Beast as well as she knows herself, because the Star Beast is herself. The Akanti and her are one. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. because that will help me out in growing the channel and being able to produce more videos like this one. See you next episode.